What if I told you the strongest man in history never won a war, never owned a kingdom, and started life as a slave? He was born into slavery. Not metaphorical slavery, actual, legal ownership of one human being by another. His master broke his leg. Some accounts say it was punishment, others say it was simple, careless cruelty. Either way, he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing. His body wasn't even legally his own. Most people would have given up. He became stronger instead. And yet, centuries later, generals, emperors, and philosophers would study his words like scripture. A Roman emperor, the same Marcus Aurelius who ruled the known world, would call this crippled ex-slave one of his greatest teachers. How does a man with absolutely nothing become one of the most powerful minds in human history? That's what this video is about. Not motivation. Not a quick fix. A real answer, from a real man who lost everything a person can lose, and never broke. Let's get into it. What if I told you the strongest man in history never won a war, never owned a kingdom, and started life as a slave? He was born into slavery. Not metaphorical slavery, actual, legal ownership of one human being by another. His master broke his leg. Some accounts say it was punishment, others say it was simple, careless cruelty. Either way, he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing. His body wasn't even legally his own. Most people would have given up. He became stronger instead. And yet, centuries later, generals, emperors, and philosophers would study his words like scripture. A Roman emperor, the same Marcus Aurelius who ruled the known world, would call this crippled ex-slave one of his greatest teachers. How does a man with absolutely nothing become one of the most powerful minds in human history? That's what this video is about. Not motivation. Not a quick fix. A real answer, from a real man who lost everything a person can lose, and never broke. Let's get into it. Most of us are terrified of loss. Losing a job. Losing a relationship. Losing our health, our money, our reputation, our plans for the future. And that fear controls more of our decisions than we like to admit. We stay in situations we've outgrown, because starting over feels like losing everything we've built. Avoid risks, because if it fails, we'll lose the identity we've attached to succeeding. Measure our worth by what we have, our job title, our bank balance, our relationship status, our followers. Here's the uncomfortable truth: almost everything you're afraid of losing was never fully yours to begin with. Not your job. Not your health. Not other people. Not even your own body, forever. And that sounds bleak, until you meet a man who lost literally all of it, at the deepest possible level, and still built one of the most respected philosophical minds in history. His name, Epictetus, actually just means, acquired one. It wasn't even his real name, it's simply the Greek word for a slave that was bought. We don't even know his birth name. That's how little the world thought his identity mattered. He was born around 50 AD in Hierapolis, in what's now Turkey, and at some point, still a boy, he was taken to Rome as a slave, owned by a wealthy and powerful man named Epictetus, who worked as secretary to the Emperor Nero. Picture that for a moment. A child, with no name of his own, no family around him, no freedom, no future he was allowed to choose, existing entirely at the will of someone else. And then, his leg was broken. Historical accounts differ on exactly how, but the philosopher Origen later wrote a story that's become famous, whether fully accurate or not, because of what it reveals about the man himself. That his master began twisting his leg as a punishment, and Epictetus calmly said, "You will break it," and when it broke, he added, without anger, without tears, "Didn't I tell you that you would?" Whether that exact exchange happened or not, it captures something true about him. He had already, even as a slave, separated his mind from what was being done to his body. Eventually, he gained his freedom. He studied Stoic philosophy under a teacher named Musonius Rufus, and he became so respected that he began teaching philosophy himself, in Rome, as a free man. But his story of loss wasn't finished. Around 93 AD, Emperor Domitian, threatened by philosophers who spoke too freely about virtue and power, banished every philosopher out of Rome. Epictetus lost his home, his students, his position, again, taken from him by the decision of a more powerful man. He didn't fight it. He didn't collapse. He simply left, traveled to a town called Nicopolis in Greece, and opened a new school, and it was there, with nothing left to lose, that he became one of the most influential teachers in the ancient world. He never even wrote his own teachings down. Everything we know of his philosophy exists only because one of his students, a young man named Arian, sat in his lectures and wrote down what he said. A man who owned nothing, left behind a body of thought that outlived the Roman Empire itself. Here is the idea Epictetus taught more than any other, and it's the exact idea that let him survive everything he survived. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Our opinions, our choices, our desires, our reactions, these are up to us. Completely, fully, always. Our body, our property, our reputation, our position in life, these are not up to us. They can be taken, at any moment, by illness, by other people, by simple chance. Epictetus said that the biggest mistake people make, is treating the things that aren't theirs, as if they were. Our opinions, our choices, our desires, our reactions, these are up to us. Completely, fully, always. Our body, our property, our reputation, our position in life, these are not up to us. They can be taken, at any moment, by illness, by other people, by simple chance. Epictetus said that the biggest mistake people make, is treating the things that aren't theirs, as if they were. You treat your job as if it's permanently yours. You treat your health as if it's guaranteed. You treat people's approval as if it's something you can lock in place and keep forever. Our opinions, our choices, our desires, our reactions, these are up to us. Completely, fully, always. Our body, our property, our reputation, our position in life, these are not up to us. They can be taken, at any moment, by illness, by other people, by simple chance. Epictetus said that the biggest mistake people make, is treating the things that aren't theirs, as if they were. You treat your job as if it's permanently yours. You treat your health as if it's guaranteed. You treat people's approval as if it's something you can lock in place and keep forever, and when any of it is inevitably taken, because everything external is eventually taken, from every single person who has ever lived, you feel destroyed. Not because you actually lost something essential to who you are, but because you had wrongly attached your identity, to something that was never truly yours. Epictetus lost his name, his freedom, his body's full function, and his home, twice. And he never broke, because he had never placed his sense of self inside any of those things in the first place. He placed it in the one territory nobody could enter without his permission, his own mind, his own choices, his own character. He put this more directly than almost any philosopher before or since. In his teachings, recorded by Arian in what we now call the Discourses and the Enchiridion, he said something close to this, asterisk. Asterisk, you may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus himself can overpower. Asterisk. Think about the audacity of that statement, coming from a man whose leg actually had been broken by someone with total power over him. He was saying, you can take my body, my property, my freedom of movement, but the part of me that decides who I am, that stays mine, no matter what you do to the rest of me. He also taught his students to ask, whenever something difficult happened, is this something that was ever within my control? If a piece of pottery breaks, he said, don't be upset, because you always knew it was breakable. Apply the same logic to everything you love, he taught, your career, your possessions, even the people in your life. Not because they don't matter, but because loving them wisely means accepting, from the start, that nothing external is permanent. This isn't coldness. It's the opposite. It's what allowed a man who had lost his name, his freedom, and the use of his own leg, to still love his students, still teach with warmth, still build an entire school of thought, without being destroyed every time life took something else away from him. You will probably never be enslaved. You will probably never have your leg broken by another human being's hand. But you will lose things. Everyone does. A job you built your identity around. A relationship you thought was permanent. Your health, at some point, in some form. People you love, eventually, to time itself. And the question Epictetus is really asking you, across 2,000 years, is this: what have you built your sense of self on top of? Ask yourself, honestly, what would happen if you lost everything tomorrow? If it's built on your job title, the day that job disappears, you disappear with it. If it's built on other people's approval, the day they withdraw it, you feel like you no longer exist. 6. So here's how to actually build this into your life, using Epictetus's own methods. Technique 1, the pottery test. Before you get attached to anything external, a job, a relationship, a plan, silently remind yourself, this is breakable. Not to feel pessimistic, but so that if it breaks, you're not shattered along with it. You already knew. Technique 2, the control line. When something goes wrong, ask one question immediately: was this within my control, or not? If it wasn't, stop spending energy resisting what already happened, and redirect that energy toward the one thing that's still yours, your next choice, your next action. Technique 3, name what's actually yours. Every day, remind yourself what genuinely belongs to you: your judgments, your effort, your integrity, your reactions. Nothing else does, not permanently. The more clearly you can name this short list, the less power any external loss has over your identity. Technique 4, rebuild from zero, on purpose. Epictetus rebuilt his entire life's work, from nothing, twice. Ask yourself, if I lost everything I currently have tomorrow, my position, my possessions, my reputation, what would still be true about my character? That answer is the only foundation that was ever actually solid. Build your identity there, starting today, instead of waiting for loss to force the lesson on you. Epictetus arrived in this world with nothing but a body that wasn't legally his own, and he left it having taught emperors, generals, and future philosophers how to think. Not because his circumstances were ever fair, and not because losing everything didn't cost him anything, it clearly did. But because he understood, earlier and more completely than almost anyone in history, that the things taken from him were never the things that made him who he was. You are not your job. You are not your relationship status. You are not your bank account, your reputation, or your body's condition on any given day. You are the part of you that chooses how to respond to all of it, and that part, no one has ever been able to take from anyone. So here's my question for you: what are you currently holding on to so tightly, that if it were taken away, you'd feel like you lost yourself along with it? Write it in the comments. I read every single one, and I think you'll be surprised how many people are carrying the exact same fear. If this video helped you see your own life a little differently, hit subscribe. I break down Stoic philosophy like this, and how to actually apply it, every single week. Until next time, remember what a crippled slave with nothing to his name once proved to the entire world: they can take almost everything from you, but they can never take the part of you that decides who you are. Because true freedom was never about what you own, it was always about who you become.